Does your staff show up only for the paycheck? Well, if so, there's more you can give them. Well, why would you bother to do that? Because there's greater job satisfaction for them and better profitability for you. My guests today, two of them, have a lot of ideas on this, help clients with this, and they're going to give us some tips on how to get started. I'm Carl White, principal at Mark Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission for both is the same, and that's to help private practice owners stay private. Not only is that what they want, but care is usually better when the provider owns the practice because that's when they're going to have the most freedom to make the clinical decisions they think are best for you. It's just not always the same when somebody else owns the practice. Sometimes, eventually, usually, their agenda starts to creep in. It's not unheard of. Let's just keep it all private so we can keep all that out to begin with. Two guests today. The first is Matthew Norton. Matthew is an expert in human behavior and cognitive science and is the founder of People Plus Purpose, a company that coaches business owners to fulfill their purpose and achieve the success they're seeking. Matthew is also the creator of numerous innovative assessments that provide unique insights into people's key strengths and signature styles, leading to improved interpersonal understanding, communication, and collaboration. Jessica Martin is the owner of Martin Management Consulting and co-owner of Martin Dental, a successful dental spa in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Jessica is a licensed school psychologist and helps medical professionals understand why patients feel anxious or fear at the dentist or other medical appointments. She's created strategies for medical professionals to remove some of the most common barriers to care, and something we talked about in a different episode on Practice Care a little while ago. But to both, thank you for coming on Practice Care.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yes, it's great to have you both. This is a new thing for us, 2-on-1, so we'll see how this goes, but it's all friendly here. Yeah. Before we get into the topic, I want to start where I start with every guest, very repetitive. The bios that I just read were short. That's what I asked for. Tell us a bit more about you, fill in some of the gaps so that people can get to know you a bit better. Matthew, why don't you go first?
Okay, well, I will make it start with on the personal side. I live in San Diego, California, and I've been happily married for 35 years. I have 5 kids and 7 grandkids, and love the life I get to live every day. The sun is indeed, as you mentioned, coming in through the window on my shoulder today. I've been a private practice care doctor for 33-year career, and I've been in the world of leadership and workplace culture coaching for 15. Those overlapped by about half of that time. And I loved every bit of my patient care, and I was ready for next and wanted to be able to have an impact with even more people. And I'm loving the fact that I can kind of do this virtually and reach people all over the country with that message. So hoping to have leaders and teams function at the highest level so that they can serve their patients at the highest level.
Perfect. Thank you. And Jessica, tell us more about you.
Yeah, so I happened to fall in love with a dental school student 20 some years ago, and that's how I'm in the world of healthcare. I don't think I really had an interest in it myself. I get kind of queasy when it comes to seeing all of the bodily fluids and whatnot. So
it takes a certain somebody, doesn't it?
It does. So I went to school to be a school psychologist and worked in that field for about 10 years. Loved that. But by necessity had to get involved in my husband's dental practice and really found a love for helping that practice grow and helping use the research, the training that I have in psychology to bring that into healthcare. And once I got our practice stabilized and thriving very much, I found my calling to serve other healthcare providers and spread the message to improve healthcare for patients, but also to make the business of healthcare more enjoyable for the providers and more profitable as well.
Right. Perfect.
Oh, and I should say too, since Matthew added in, I think we've been married almost 18 years. We have 2 children, and we're in the thick of like all the kid activities and running around and things like that, but it's very fun.
I can relate, definitely. And I mentioned it in the opening, but yeah, Jessica and I had a really good episode maybe about a year ago. Just search her name, Jessica Martin. If you're worried about patients being anxious at all when they come to visit, and maybe they're delaying visits or not visiting at all, it's a good episode to listen. There's just a lot of really good tips in there. So our topic for today, more than a paycheck for employees. This is a good one. It's always a good one. About a year ago, we had a lot of guests who came on and said, I can't afford to pay as much as hospitals do. How do I keep my people? And so there's maybe a little bit of overlap. We'll find out, but it's always a timely topic. So let me get into it. Let's just start with some basics, some what's. What are the components of job satisfaction in your experience that are not about the money? Who would like to? Yeah.
I'll jump in and start with that. I
With
think-
these, for those who watch this on YouTube, you're going to see like a bunch of pregnant stares because we haven't done this before. So don't think there was an audio problem if you hear these pregnant silences. So, okay.
You can feel free to assign us the first response.
I'll do my best to be equal. Yeah.
Too polite, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say that in general, I don't believe people primarily do what they do for a paycheck, that we all, I haven't had anybody tell me yet I would show up if there wasn't a paycheck, or that like a little bit more money would always be welcome. But one thing I've learned in my time in coaching, as well as through the assessments, one particular assessment I use is called inspiration sources, which really says, what do people value? What are their driving motivators? Where are they going to find satisfaction? Only one of those is actually utilitarian, return on investment, money focused. So one of the highest ones that comes out on a regular basis is people who are very causal, purpose driven in the work that they're doing, oftentimes contribution focused, connection focused. So there's many other motivators, and the research behind that says that as long as if people are touching those top motivators, inspiration sources on a regular basis, they will be fulfilled and rewarded. So a lot of times the idea of just giving somebody rewarding them with a bonus, a financial benefit, is not the key thing. And I don't believe most people, if those other needs are being met, would leave for another $1 or $2 an hour, or if the place they were considering changing to would be, half a mile closer. Right. The commitment is not based around that.
Right. So Jessica, I want to bring you in a second, but just to recap. So purpose, contribution, connection. So purpose, what is our mission here in organization X? Contribution, am I able to contribute to that? And connection, do I feel connected to the mission, to my colleagues, et cetera? Did I get it?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable summary. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And there's others, but those are often kind of the top three.
These are the biggies.
Dental team members, especially.
Yeah. Okay. And Jessica, what would you add to that, massage that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people go into healthcare because they want to help people. They want to heal people. They want to serve people. And so I think, when we can really tap into how to serve more patients and how to have a markedly better experience for patients, that can be really rewarding. It can feel innovative in the field if they have the type of practice that is standing out to really provide exceptional care. And I think for teams that can be very uplifting and empowering, that they're able to maybe overcome a barrier that people have had before in getting care and do it really exceptionally, because it's not really fun to work with people that are scared or that are angry, right? That's a great quality work environment. So the more we can really nurture patients and nurture our teams to be nurturers, I think there's so much more feel good that comes with that. And I also think it's important for business leaders to have strategies and plans for how they're going to serve their patients, how they're going to run the business, so that it feels as an employee like a really cohesive organization that has purpose and plan. So everyone has their parts and it feels like there's cohesion.
Right. So you have a good segue to the next question, but I want to ask something else. You might have hit it, Jessica, because I was going to ask both of you. So a private practice owner could say, well, our purpose is clear. We treat people, we make them better. And I'm just wondering if that's enough. And what if it's like toxic as hell or whatever, bad? Like it would just seem like they could cancel each other out, that they're not really optional. How do you, when somebody says to you, well, isn't our purpose clear? We provide medical care and we make people better. Do you say, all right, check that box? Or you just say, well, there's more to it than that. What do you say to that? Because I could see people saying, we got that. We don't have to worry about that. That's the nature of our practice. I'm just wondering if that's enough.
Well, I'll answer in that I have one particular practice comes to mind right now where, or two different ones. One to where they had a mission statement actually embroidered by a patient up on the wall. I mean, the whole mission statement was embroidered. It's in the break room. We did an on-site training there, and I was asking the people while I'm sitting in there noticing that. So I said, does everybody engaged and excited about that? And everybody was kind of like, like we learned it at one point. We were even told to memorize it, but were they invested in it? Was that exciting to them? No, most of them haven't thought about it in a long time. So it wasn't the exercise in creating a mission statement. That actually probably detracts from the whole purpose, which is, do you have what is the highest level? At the highest level, why are you doing this? Can we bring everybody together with a compelling destination and a meaningful, something we can touch every day that says, this is why we can feel it. This is why we're showing up to take care of people. And for the most part, I'm not finding people playing at that level.
Got it. Jessica, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying is that people do stop short and they don't realize how valuable it is to have more of that higher purpose, and how they, can get the team to really, row in the same direction, if you will, to be empowered and inspired and really, I mean, it's energy too, right? Like patients can feel energetically how that team is functioning when they walk in, when they receive care. And so if you just stop short to say, well, yeah, we help patients, that's what we do, and that's our purpose, you're kind of missing a lot of the quality there.
Yeah, I just don't want anybody listening to feel like they've got the buy on that, because your employees can get, you could still screw it up, I guess.
We check the box, but
it's just it takes more to check the box, and you have to keep it checked. That's the other thing, is people don't realize it can uncheck itself if you stray. So purpose, contribution, connections. Jessica, you said in an earlier answer, you have strategies and plans to get these things implemented, get them to kind of come to life. So that's kind of the next question. Inside each of those, purpose, contribution, connection, and that's just the top three that you guys talked about. There's probably a number of it's a large list, right? So I'm private practice owner X. How do I figure out where do I start, but which one should I bring in? If there's 25 total, I can't do all 25 at once. Nobody can, right? So how do you figure out which ones are relevant to you? How do you make sense of all that so that you can get going on it,
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I hate to kind of give a default answer, but I think that sometimes when it's nice to have an outside perspective, someone that comes in and helps kind of see what that looks like, and see what it's sometimes hard when you're really close to something to see what's possibly missing, or, where to start with that. But I do think, from an independent standpoint, looking at what are the goals of the practice, where do we need to move to be better, is probably, and then what are those components that help get us there, would be the place to start. And if there are challenges that the practice is facing with team culture, or drama issues, or depending on what the challenges are too, fixing those to be sure that everyone's kind of clear-minded to work toward that mission is also a good place to start if those challenges do exist.
So maybe is maybe mission the place, mission, vision, purpose, your word, Matthew, purpose. Because I was staring at these going, I could be connected to my colleagues, but it could still be toxic as hell overall, right? We could be contributing day to day, but to what? We're just, the patients are doing better. I mean, Matthew, what's anything to add to what Jessica said?
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily looking for a black and white sequential order, but it's a large thing we're talking about, and you got to start somewhere. So is there a bad place to start, I guess? Maybe that's a different way to think about it.
Bad place to start, because you'll probably go from there. Even if you didn't tap the top priority right away, you'll get your way to that top priority more clearly by starting somewhere. Sometimes you just start. But I get invited in more often than not by a business owner being introduced to me because they have some overt issue, people issue, and it's never them, almost never them. So if you could just fix my office manager, And then it's as we begin to explore into that to see, well, what might that entail, then find that there were 6 others apparently that couldn't be fixed prior to that one. And then sometimes the business owner will say, when we get into that, they'll say, what, you think that it could be me? And the answer is typically yes, that it all
there's a common denominator here.
Yeah, visionary leaders. Like my wife had an aunt that was married 8 times. It's like you either made a lot of bad picks and that's still on you, or there's something about you in the equation here.
Yeah.
But also because of that, when I'm working with teams, a lot of times we use the word team, but it's not really a team. I mean, that's a designation, but a team requires some sort of cohesion. That word was used. I think Jessica mentioned cohesion. So instead, it ends up breaking down into kind of an aggregation of individuals who showed up at a location. It wasn't really a team, which then comes back to that purpose-driven mission to say, what is it that gets everybody pulling together with cohesion to accomplish something meaningful, this meaningful destination that we're aiming for? We need to pull together. The best star individuals in a sports team do not necessarily mean victory. It's the ones who maybe even have lesser star potential, but they played as a real team. So that's what I'm looking for when it comes to that. So to me, the sequence is mission. That leads to a true team. Otherwise, we're splintered into a bunch of kind of ego individuals.
You're giving me flashbacks to my former corporate life in a couple of ways. One, when you said they give a bonus and nothing changes, we got bonuses. And I was like, thank you very much. But
we're still into the same.
I'm motivated because I'm motivated. Like I said, I would do this job. I'm going to do it to my ability, but I didn't work that much harder because the bonus came. And then team, oh my God, everybody used the word team. And after a while, I was like, this, you know, it's first of all, it's overused, so it's lost its meaning. Secondly, this is one crappy ass team, because if that's really what it is, because look at us. I mean, we're all trying to do our best, but you know, we can't figure you out. And one of the business units I was in, we had a new VP of marketing every other year. Like, and you just, the new one, want to make them more, all sorts of reasons why, when you think of team, like high performing team, like right now we're recording this, next weekend's the Super Bowl. And so it's the Chiefs versus the 49ers. And I picked up on this. They were showing some, like a clip of the Chiefs just before the game starts. So they're all wrapped around all the players, and Patrick Mahomes is in the middle. He's trying to rile them up. And he finished it by saying, let's find a way to win this game. And I thought, I've never heard anyone say that. That's great. I mean, that's just, don't give up until it's done. And it was so cohesive, and they were all in it, and different team environment. But anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Man, the word team is overused. I don't think anybody, and if you took 10 business leaders and lined them up and said, what is your definition of a team? You get 10 different answers, right? That's bad, let alone high performing. And it's just, So I like your answer. Just pick something and go. How do I know where to start? Pick something and go. You're smart people. You'll figure out if you're really at the highest order or not, but it's good work along the way. So with that, I'm going to let either one of you answer this first. Let's see how well we work on the pregnant pauses here. How do you know if it's working? So now it's 3 months later, I'm private practice owner X again. We've decided to work on contribution or something inside contribution. How can I tell if we're making progress? How can I tell if it's better than it was when we started? How do you measure these things?
I'll let you go first, Jessica, on that one.
Well, I think it depends on who you are. I mean, most doctors are analytical, so they're going to look at the metrics, right? They're going to look at, how has production been? How's collection been? How has the schedule looked? And if that looks good, that might be an indication that things have been working better. I tend to be a little more intuitive and feeling based. So for me, I like metrics too, but I would also want to just feel like, I think I would feel the energetic difference with team cohesion and people being in flow. And I think when those stressful moments occur, as they will in a dental environment or a healthcare environment, it's how does the team now work through those things? Are people able to work through them quicker? Are we able to, not mess up the whole day because this happened? So those are the things that I would look for, but I'm sure Matthew's got better and better than
different, just different.
Just different, yeah. One thing that came to mind as you were saying that is thinking, maybe you've heard the expression before, be, do, have, back into, if we're talking sequences again, is that a lot of times we have things that we want to have. We want those metrics to change, right? We want more profitability based on more productivity,
Mhm.
more efficiency and all that. So then what are we going to do differently than what we're doing now so that we can have that? But and that's where people are often starting. Tell me the stuff to do. But then we also have plenty of experiences where you can have two different people who said they did the exact same thing, if that's possible, that they did the exact same thing, but
Mhm.
they did the exact same thing and got very different results. So why was that the case? How they were being into their doing made all the difference into what they have as an outcome.
Mhm.
So I think that's where I think that intuitive element comes in there to a great degree, because how can we assess how we are being together, or like how is that front office being, maybe if there's two people there in their integration as a team. Um, but then also, how is that informing how they're answering the phone, how they're engaging patients when they come in and when they leave? And so then what are the procedures and processes and all of that that we are doing so that we can have those outcomes? So I think the first measures are at that being level. And I think there's leaks, symptoms that you can begin to sense, the stress levels and that sort of thing that
Mhm.
begin to show. Um, so that's where I would begin. If we want to have something, even before we make all of our to-do list, are we actually all on the same page with what we're doing and why we're doing it?
So you're saying, I like that, because and what you both said kind of fits together. Matthew, it sounds like you're saying, yesterday we used to attack this problem this way. Tomorrow, going forward, we're going to attack it that way, a different way, because we think it's going to lead to a better outcome. And you can watch that in action, right? You can see. So how do we know if it's working? Well, we're actually doing what we said we would do. And what you're saying, Jessica, is if it's even halfway well designed, things ought to look better, feel better, be better. And you should just be able to kind of tell that after a while, right? um, which is not avoiding a measure. But you're right; these are soft things. They're very important things. They're hard to measure. It's
Yeah.
not a. It's more like we're talking social science, not clinical science. It's hard to measure those things. So you should just kind of know. That sounds really practical, actually. But the hard part is not the hard part, but it's we used to do it this way. Now we're going to do it that way, and it really is also it's really incumbent on the leadership to, one, live by it, and two, call it out when they don't see it, right? Because you can just picture the busy doctor, provider, owners. I'm just going to go back treat patients now. You all got it, and then the cat's away, right? So do you see that too? Do you impress upon, look, Dr. X or whoever, you can't just delegate this and walk away. You've got to live it and you got to police it too. Do you get into that with them? And how does that go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a fan of people actually being equipped and empowered, and then to kind of make it work according to their strengths and skills, to maybe design it their way to be able to get that outcomes that are being stated. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that visionary leader, sets the vision, sets the tone, and then who are those people that have been entrusted to take and build strategy and execute processes so that they can get the result. But oftentimes they get over micromanaged or forced into a certain, it's supposed to look this way while you're doing it. And maybe that's not how that person's going to do it, but they're going to get the result if you allow them that. But you're right, they shouldn't check out. The leadership should not check out and
Yeah.
assume it's all getting done. So there's a balance there, I think, to not, I can understand how people get caught in micromanagement, but the other side is people are not even present leaders, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
I delegated it. I don't know what happened.
I told them what to do. How come they're not doing it? Now it's back to, let's fix the office manager, right? So Jessica, you've got the consultant side and the practice, kind of the practice management side. I'm curious because you're really in this every day, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. With private practice, there's so many hats, right? I mean, that doctor is trying to lead a team. They're trying to do really good dentistry. They're trying to actually run a business. Like, they're doing the job of, two and a half people probably,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so it is important, to have that support from an office manager, from a spouse. Sometimes in our case, it happens, from someone else that can help drive some of these initiatives, and be sure that the implementation process is smooth, because that is the hard part. We go back to normal. Those habits, they take a while to form. And so keeping it, keep talking about it. Strategies would be like, mentioning things in your morning huddle and making sure we're reminding the team on what are we working for? What is our vision? What is the purpose? What are the things we've changed? How is that going? Checking in, at least in the very beginning until those habits are established, is super important from the leadership perspective, or everyone just kind of falls back into those old patterns, and then we're back to the beginning.
And the longer you've lived a habit, the longer it takes to break. And, and so, yeah. And then, you think about now you've just hired somebody new. So you're on this path, and you've got to make sure that they sort of get it, that they are properly oriented to, this is how we do things here. Yeah. So there needs to be that as well. This is, it's interesting. It's really interesting stuff. It's really timely. This never goes out of style. A couple of wrap-up questions I ask every set of guests, just to kind of keep us more on the bite-sized type of advice. The first one is, we covered a lot of ground. However, is there anything you think, either one of you, that I should have asked you, but I just didn't think to ask you?
I had a couple of quick additional elements just on what to give the team other than a paycheck. One, and kind of if there are two other pieces other than the one we've kind of talked about a lot, which is having a purpose-driven mission we've talked about. But the two other things that Gallup in their State of the Global Workplace talks about in terms of increasing team engagement, which is a huge problem, is to build a strengths-based workplace. People want to be seen. People want to be recognized for what they uniquely bring. They're not just a homogenous, kind of, everyone's the same there, but we bring unique things. And that's a lot of where the assessments that I do come in, because we can actually, across these 4 dimensions that I'm measuring, look and see where are their strengths and how do we give them the microphone to, not so much that we want to guard against their weaknesses showing up, but how do we make sure we feature their greatest possible contribution? And when that occurs, now the team is rewarded, the individuals, the team. Now I'm going to be
no, it's not a 4-letter word. It's close, but yeah.
So a strengths-based workplace, and the third one is a culture of ongoing growth and development opportunities. So are we being invested in on an ongoing basis? Is this all there is, kind of thing, or are you helping me grow and learn and become better? As a result of being here.
Yeah. And when I translate those in my mind, I say, why would you hire me based on my strengths? Why don't you just hire me for things I'm already really good and strong at? Doesn't that make a lot more sense than let's just focus on the things that are really, really hard? So that's the first one. The second one, why would I want to grow and develop? Because I get bored after a while. It's anything gets boring after a while. Is there anything else to do here? So maybe there's a motivation. Jessica, what about you? So
as you guys were talking, I was thinking, our office has actually gotten the opportunity to work with Matthew directly, and Matthew and I collaborate on a number of things, but we've actually brought his strengths assessments into our team. And it's been really interesting to see how we are all uniquely contributing. And for me, for example, when I kind of knew that, but because I'm a psychologist, but I don't think a lot of our people really understood themselves really well. But when I even can see on paper, like my strengths are in influencing and promoting, it makes sense that I'm really not at the practice much. I'm out in the community promoting the practice, and I'm doing other things in the consulting world. And it's just sort of like that reinforcement of, I'm in the right place. And for our team doing the things that they're doing, they can feel good that they're in the right role. And if they're not, which, in some offices, there is the wrong person in the wrong seat. And so sometimes it takes looking at things deeper and understanding ourselves better to realize why we're having conflict. It's not because of the people around us, maybe necessarily. It's because we're doing things that are against what really we intuitively should be doing. What's going to help us stay in flow. So I think that self-discovery piece is really, really helpful. And I wish everyone could do that for themselves.
Yeah. I remember the first time I did strengths finders on myself, I just looked at the results and I went, this is shockingly accurate. And in 1,000 years, I never would have come up with this on my own. Anybody who hasn't done it, you should do it, because, and just, swallow hard and embrace the results. Because if you're in the right role or the wrong role, this is you. It's shockingly accurate. And just make adjustments if you need to. So the other wrap-up question I ask, and Jessica, I'll start with you on this one, is, so we've caught a listener's attention. I said, you know what, they're right. We need to do this, but they don't know where to start. We just bit off a large topic in a pretty short amount of time. Trying to bring it down to the ground. Sometimes people get really enthusiastic about starting something, but they just don't know where to start. So if you had to give them something really small, simple, tangible they could do as soon as they're done listening to get them nudged off that starting line. Jessica, start with you. What would you tell them to do?
If it's a leader listening in, I would tell them to take some time to really reflect, who am I? What am I good at? What is my vision for where I want this practice to go? And what are the strategies? What is it going to take to get there? Maybe they can't see all of those components, but they can conceptualize like ultimately what they're hoping for as their legacy and whatnot. I think starting there helps because I look at like my husband and I, and sometimes we get frustrated at being the owners, and if we have team members that don't seem to be super engaged, it's like, well, they can go elsewhere, but this is us, like this is our
we can't
we're here. Yeah, like this is
we
it.
could,
so,
but we can't. Yeah.
Right. So it's like we don't get to quit and start over. I mean, you could, but that's a whole other thing, right? So really figuring out what it is that you want that's going to help you feel fulfilled. Because I think when we work on ourselves, everything else around us gets better, and what we're looking for in others, it's improves as well, because we have a full understanding of what we need and want.
So just start with sort of a metaphorical look in the mirror and what am I? Yeah. Who am I? What am I good at? What do I really stink at? Et cetera. Okay. Matthew, what about you? What would you say to somebody who's wants to get started, but they don't know where to start?
I would say that is the kind of what you shared, Jessica, is kind of the foundational baseline level. And then I'm also thinking there's many people who are listening to us who are thinking, yeah, I don't know exactly what to do with that, or how to be clear and honest with myself about those things. So there's a next level of discovery. If doctors listening want to take a first step, and I have put together a very low cost kind of taste of what we do and merged it together, which is really a discovery process. We have each have a scorecard to kind of assess functionality, right? Just like the doctor's got a case history and getting to know what the patient's needs are. Part of that is just being able to assess where are those greatest needs, front office, team, patient experience. And it includes some of my assessments in that process. So just at a very low cost opportunity to find out a little bit of guidance. We call it our breakthrough program.
Okay.
So we're trying to get one key breakthrough for the practice in a very short window of time.
And a good place to start. So that's something online that they could either sign up for or.
Yeah, we can share the
URL
for that program.
Yeah, we'll take that link and we'll add it to the show notes for this episode. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Thank you both. This was very successful 2-on-1, and we kept it bite-sized. So I really appreciate, we didn't rehearse any of this. So I really appreciate you both willing to do this. So thanks for both of you for coming on Practice Care. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, like I said, all the contact information that I was provided by both Matthew and Jessica are going to be in the show notes for the episode. So that's another way to get a hold of them. A couple of quick points before we wrap up. First, if you're a private practice owner like Jessica, or if you seek to serve private practice owners also like Jessica or Matthew or me, and you've got some experience on the business side of private practice that you think others would benefit from, please, we want you to come on Practice Care and tell the world about it. In the show notes for this episode and every episode, there's a link, a couple of clicks. It's really simple. Tell us what's on your mind so we can get you scheduled as soon as possible. And finally, we have a new episode every week. And really the easiest way to stay up to date with them is to subscribe to Practice Care. Just search it one word. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, pretty much every player. We're very easy to find. Just subscribe so you can stay up to date. Thanks very much. And until next time.